need to do a sound.
Make sure Jessica is recording before we officially get going. Jessica, are you able to record?
Yes, Brian.
Okay. I didn't get a notification, so you're, okay. Maybe because I've been sharing it with you. All right, we're good.
Good morning, everyone. We'll go ahead and call our meeting to order. I just want to first start out by just thanking John and team. I feel like we've been in each other's world a little bit lately, and I had asked John a big task to come to Glasgow for the Tate press conference, and he worked his schedule around to do that. So I really appreciate it, and that I know that there's lots of things going on like that, but I really appreciate John doing that for us in Barron County. So, are there any special guests in the
I don't.
I see Robert Boone on there. Good morning, Robert. Good to see you.
Great seeing you all.
As a housekeeping note, I just want to remind everyone during our voting actions, board members, if you could just keep your camera on, and if you do vote and you're online, if you would state your name ahead of time, that way I know who you are for sure. All right, and I'll turn it over to John for his opening remarks.
Well, good morning. It's a pleasure to be with everybody in person and online. My opening remarks are very short. It's February, and what we tend to do in February is what we're going to do today, which is we will take a look at our strategic goals and our key performance indicators. And really, what we want to do is we're going to propose some key performance indicators to you and ask you to approve those at the end of the meeting. And that'll be the gist. And in between, you'll get all kinds of updates on activities and operations and some financial things that have been going on since we last met. That concludes my remarks.
Okay, the first order of business this morning is to approve the December 11th, 2025 board minutes. Board members should have received and reviewed those minutes. Are there any comments or questions regarding the minutes? Not, may I have a motion to approve? So moved. All right, thank you, Dr. Myers. Is there a second?
Second.
Shannon, thank you, Shannon. Okay. All in favor, say aye. Opposed? Okay, motion carries. All right. Okay, our executive team met on January 22nd, and I'll just go over this slide with all of the information that we went over that day. The first order of business was we completed John's annual evaluation. The evaluation was split up into 3 sections: strategic goals and objectives, job description, and competency expectation or competency assessments. I'm sorry. And each section there was a maximum out of 3. After each of the exec members completed the evaluation, John received a weighted score of 2.76 out of 3, which considered that he exceeded expectations. And with that, we authorized a 3.5% pay increase for John. After completing his evaluation, our committee next considered and we received a series of administrative updates from John, which included an update on the state comprehensive monitoring of PY24, a brief update on board vacancies, and he also gave us an update on communications and outreach. And for operational updates, we discussed the Blue Oval SK rapid response by the board. And for administrative updates, John informed our committee about there was an additional $75,000 allocation of putting young Kentuckians first, putting young Kentuckians to work funds. That's a lot of acronyms and mouthfuls there. We heard about a new SB 90 contract and recent grant application for Kentucky Opioid Abatement Commission. And John will talk more about those this morning and maybe not get his tongue twisted on any of those.
Probably.
And lastly, we looked into a lot of activities that the team has planned for 2026, and John or Brian will cover you this morning. And any questions about our committee updates? Okay, Brian, I think you're up.
Yes, good morning, everybody. Great to see you in person or online. We have a very important task ahead of us over the next few months, which is to issue a request for proposals for our WIO direct services contract that we have. And so just a quick overview of this. This is really the bread and butter of what we do with the WIO legislation is give that to a service provider that provides all of the programmatic parts and many of the fiscal parts of that contract. And you know them as Career Team, and we've known them for many years as Career Team. And so Career Team will have to reapply, but this is standard procedure, and it will also be open to other bidders. So this is just a brief overview of that outline. There's a few other steps involved where basically the bidders can ask us questions and we'll respond to those in the month of March. But we just issued this last week. We want to know who intends to apply by the end of this month, more or less, and then the proposals will be due by just about the end of March there. We will bring this recommendation to the board potentially at our next meeting, which may be the 16th. This is an issue that we'll be asking for your feedback on by the end of the meeting. Our scheduled time to meet as a board is spring break week. Typically, that interrupts a lot of people's ability to join. And nobody wants to join virtually from the beach, I'm sure, if that's where you're headed. So we want to know, based on your feedback, if we need to keep it or if we need to push it back a week. If we push it back a week, then this timeline will hold where we should be making a nomination to the board by the 16th of April. If we need more time, if there's some kind of complication for that, we'll look at postponing that. But the contract will start by July, and so that's what we're aiming to do. But here is the ask, everybody. We have to, as part of this process, have a review panel. That review panel cannot be John, nor I, nor any of the workforce board staff. It needs to be made up of board representatives. And so we have an ask, and this is in a nutshell what the ask is. It should be just a prep meeting that John and I will go over kind of what that proposal looks like today. It's on our website. You're welcome to read it in your infinite downtime and, see what the questions are that we ask. But everybody will have a standard format that will be used to submit basically a grant request to us in this proposal. We will have a scoring process on our end, and we ask that those be read over the course of about a 2.5-week period there, so that we could come in April with the goal of making a recommendation by the April board meeting. So this could be less depending of a time commitment, depending on the number of RFPs we receive. We don't know. We're obligated to post those, and we have, and it's gone out to a National Workforce Board Association website. That's one of the primary ways, but John has sent that out to all of the other Kentucky Workforce Board state directors. I believe we've already got it to Career Team as well, but we're asking for people to forward that if they know anybody that might be interested in bidding on it. Brief history, Career Team is in their second contract with us. So we do this for 1 year, but we can extend it 4 additional years after that. So it almost becomes a 5-year contract, but we're not wedded to 5 years with our provider, but this could essentially, be issued for up to that amount of time. So our ask ends with a call for volunteers. If we want to move forward with this quickly, we would love to know who's on board or wants to just, entertain the idea. We're not going to necessarily ask for commitments, but if you want to be considered for that, now's the time to talk. And if you don't, then we're going to come at you and ask after today.
I'd say maybe if they're online, if you're interested, put it in the chat.
Yeah.
And anybody in the room that's interested, we'll take note of that today.
What size group are you looking for?
5 to 7.
So if you've ever wanted to be a judge on a reality show, we can try to make a little mini version of that.
As long as it's line up, I would be willing.
As would I, because I'm about to go through this process, so I'd like to see it a little bit from the behind the scenes.
Oh, great. Yeah. Okay, and we've got some folks online. We'll take note of that. Thank you. All right, our adult ed people are coming through. Roxana, thank you. Great. You were not held to this moment, so if you say you want in after this moment, we will certainly talk to you and want to move forward with that. And with that, I will turn it over to Michelle.
Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Can someone flip to the presentation?
Yes, there you go.
Thank you. All right, this presentation is for the period ending January 31st, 2026. Our fiscal year starts in July and ends in June. The total forecasted annual revenues are $3,546,337. Our year-to-date forecast is $2,068,697, and the actual revenues are $1,905,792, resulting in a year-to-date variance of $904. Apologies. The total forecasted annualized revenues are $3,079,605. Our year-to-date actual expenses, $1,733,565, resulting in a total surplus of $172,227, which is mainly attributed to the foundation revenues and uptick there. Next slide, if we have another one for the balance sheet. Yep. All right. Our statement of financial position is a balance sheet for other businesses. Our total assets and liabilities are both $284,000 each. And that concludes the financial presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Michelle. Any questions on the financial report this morning? Your motion to approve?
Motion.
Josh.
Josh, okay, thank you, Josh. Second,
I'll second.
all in favor, say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. Thank you.
All right, show and tell.
Yeah.
Okay, all right, we're ahead of schedule. All right, so what I want to do, we're gonna set the stage with just, and this is a zoom out on what 2026 is going to look like for us. And I'm not going to go over all of these. This is a very busy slide, but I've kind of chunked it up into administrative, operational, and financial activities and tasks that we're working on. Anything in bold are things that we have to do. We owe mandates that we have to do it, and anything not in bold that's just us going out and doing it. Brian's talked about under administrative, he's talked about the WIO direct service request for proposal process. Another thing that we've got to do this year is update our interlocal agreement and our partnership agreement. And these are agreements that we enter into every 5 years with our local judge executives because they have a role in overseeing the work that we do. And then, of course, we've got our annual state monitoring and our external audit. Those are annual events that happen. I'll talk a little bit more about the statewide workforce and talent team when we talk about the Blue Oval response. And then everything else is, again, those are just activities and tasks and things that we've got on our plate. So I'm really just conveying that we've got a lot going on. We got a lot of glass balls in the air at any given time, and that's how we like it. We try to be very aggressive in serving our community. Let's go forward one. Okay, as I mentioned a few minutes ago, one of the main things we want to do is establish our key performance indicators for the year. And so we're going to, as we go throughout this presentation, we'll go through all 5 strategic goals, and those strategic goals are set by our strategic plan. And so the strategic goals don't change year to year until we change our local strategic plan. But what we do change and modify are the key performance indicators under each strategic goal. And so, Brian, if you'll build one, so as we go and we talk about each one of these over the next few minutes, anything that you see in kind of bold red font, that's a goal. That's something we're saying, hey, we want to do this year. And then we, as we do in this meeting, every time we meet, we report back on how we're doing towards each of these goals. We're going to give you either a data point or an in progress, red, amber, green. We're going to give you something that says we are on track or not on track with achieving these goals. So I say all that to say we're going to go through the presentation as normal, but then we'll come back at the very end, and I'll ask you to approve these key performance indicators. If at any point over before we get there, if you have any questions or need additional context about a key performance indicator, we're happy to answer those. So that's the methodology we're going to follow. So I'm just teeing up that we're going to look at these key performance indicators, and then I'll ask you to vote near the end. Okay. Barring any questions, I'll turn it over to Brian.
Okay. Yes, so we'll jump in just as we normally do, going goal by goal. We do have 5 now, and the first one is the employer services and solutions. And so a lot of this is our engagement with employers and events around that. Here are the KPIs. This mostly look familiar to you. I'm going to explain one new one here, but we always track the number of times that we're engaged with the business. So even if we talk to Mr. Paul Scott Murphy sitting across from me right now, 16 times throughout the year, those all go in and count as 16 towards that 1,200 number, because we could be having 16 different engagements and different matters. Could be referring candidates, could be event related, could be a project we're working on, those sort of things. When we do referrals to employers, we also try to track that, and you can see we're a tenth of the way there for the year. And then our hiring events, and 50 sounds like a tremendous amount. Those do include ones that happen almost weekly at the Kentucky Career Center, which we dub our employer showcase. And so that's been a really great way to have a smaller scale kind of opportunity for people to meet with businesses. We actually had 50 last year, so we don't think this is not stretching ourselves necessarily, but we did have other community events. We've already had 4, this year, one of those being a rarely big one, and then 3 of the ones that happened at the Career Center. The employers connected to talent pipelines. Okay, so we talk about this really all the time. We've never really tried to put a metric on it. We've tried to say how many referrals we want to do and how many, let's say, youth get jobs, how many new Americans or military members transitioning out of the military that we connect, but we just kind of wanted to see, of all the activity that we do, can we have 30 employers that have hired 10 or more of the people that we've referred to them? So we made a new goal for ourselves in this way that just tracks it a little bit differently. We'd like to come to you as we do every other month with these board meetings and just tell you where we stand on that. It's not necessarily a measure of strength or weakness, but we think that we want to give credit where credit is due to some of the pipelines we have, but it will also be a really nice visible way for our team to know if we're throwing eggs at the wrong baskets, so to speak. If we're just not getting our bang for our buck with referrals to certain employers, and we know that we can do better elsewhere, and to just build capacity. We know that there's certain companies that have a scale to be able to hire dozens of people every year that we refer to them, and other ones can't do that. So it's, again, not necessarily a measure of strength or weakness, but just we want to see the activity that we're generating in the local workforce, that our team knows some of the employers that are more prone to hire at a little bit higher volume in double digits there. So we will refer way more than 10, but we want to try to track that at least 10 get hired throughout the year. So and then we've typically always reported to you, and we will. Jake will give an update here on the very heavy involvement that they've already had this year in response to a Blue Oval SK's announcement of closure back in December, and events related to that. We also have a needs assessment as part of the SWAT initiative that we've talked about throughout 2025. It's a statewide, but in our case, local team that is serving employers, and there's a needs assessment that's been developed. So we kind of want to track that employers have filled that out. And we started to track employer satisfaction last year, and we've always reported those results. And we've already gotten several responses from employers on the events we've done. And we're standing at 93% satisfaction with the level of service right now. So just a quick overview of that. But again, the things in red are the things that we're asking you to vote on by the end of the meeting. Any questions on that before I hand it over to Jake? No? Okay.
Well, good morning, everybody. So I'm going to take a couple of minutes just to share with you one of the events that we've been working on since our last board meeting. I know many of you are aware of the Blue Oval SK shutdown, either seen it on the news or impacted directly about this. But we have seen 1,500 workers who are going to be terminated on Sunday, actually, 2/15, related to their activity up there. So Bianca and myself and the whole team here have been working directly on this event, and then coordinating with Lincoln Trail as well on their events as well. So I know John alluded to it, but our statewide workforce and talent team, this is a great test to determine the viability of that, how well we could work with other groups, and the kinds of activities we were doing together and sharing information and those kinds of things. So it was a great test of that, but I'll also say it was a great showcase of that as well, because there were some really strong successes that came from us working with Lincoln Trail on these events. We shared staff. So Bianca and I came up and worked with them on these events, and they came to us as well when it came time for our job fair. We shared some virtual platforms that made it a lot easier for us to collect information. And then ultimately just collaborated on just different ideas that we had for this job fair and for their job fair. And so again, it was a great test, determine how well we could do this, but also a great showcase as well, because I think there were a lot of successes that came away from it. And so I'll just get into the numbers just very briefly to identify how we did this and the kinds of plans that we had. So you'll see that ultimately on 12/15, it was announced that 1,500 people would be laid off, and that was going to happen on 2/15, so that'll be Sunday. We were able to determine through some commuter data and through some of the information the company was providing us that about 300 of those individuals were from our region that were impacted. And we estimated a lot of those are probably from Hart County, many of them traveling just to the north of them in Glendale to work, but also just along I-65. It made it easier for many of the workers to travel up to Glendale every day. So about 300 of those folks we estimated that lived in our region. So we wanted to do one of our own events in addition to some of the events that were happening in the Lincoln Trail area. So on January 8th and 9th and 12th through the 16th, they did the partner event. So when we talk about rapid response and we talk about our partner event, a lot of that is unemployment insurance, connecting them to community resources to either upskill or help them retain a job in the future. So they handled that piece, and 538 people attended that. That's a pretty traditional number. About 1/3 of folks take advantage of that partner event. And so that's a pretty traditional number and a good turnout for that. On 1/22 in E-Town, they had 678 people attend the job fair. And so you could see some of those photos on the screen there. Had 63 total employers and then 10 from South Central. So one of those ways that we kind of did the SWAT was to help them secure South Central employers, but also to assist them day of the event by going there and handling registration or going around to different companies and telling them about the kinds of resources that existed, or asking them what kinds of information they needed to better survey applicants and things like that. If you want to go to the next slide. And then for our piece, since there were about 300 folks or so living in South Central, we decided to do our own job fair to try to connect them more to the resources that existed in South Central and to the companies that are here. So we had 8 total employers and 95 attendees. I will say our event tried to be a little smaller because we knew we weren't going to get 600, 700 people from the company. So we tried to keep it smaller, a little more intimate to try to get some better outcomes driven from this. And so I had 95 total folks attend that. And as of now, just from last week, we've gotten information from companies that at least 3 people have already been hired, with many, many more interviewing and providing applications and things like that. One of the things, and I'll wrap up here, one of the things that we've been are going to try to do this year is get more feedback from both employers that were there and job seekers. That'll help us better understand how to organize these events, what things we need to do better, what things we're successful at, all of that. So we're getting job seeker responses. So we're using a text us platform. We'll text these individuals after the event is over, ask them to fill out a survey and say, how better can we serve you? From those responses, got 21 out of the 22 were either satisfied or very satisfied from the outcome of the event. And so that's great. And we got a quote there you can read on the screen from someone who attended. So again, 21 out of 22, that's really good. And we're going to continue to provide you with this type of data moving forward to show you the success of these events and why it matters to these job seekers and why it's important to them. And finally, just down there at the bottom, we're also getting employer responses. So we got out of the 8 employers there, all 8 employers responded to this. 6 of them were very satisfied across all categories. So they identified out of 0 through 5, all of them identified 5 for it being well organized. The event went well for them. It was valuable for them to be there, all of that. And you can see some pictures on the screen for this smaller event as well. So I'll turn it back over to Brian or John.
Can you mention Tate?
Oh, sure. Yeah, so obviously Tate is a new business coming to Barron County. We've already mentioned it here at this meeting. And so they're looking to hire what, upwards of 400? Yeah, so upwards of 400. So we really wanted them to get involved in our events going forward to try to help them as best we can staff some of that. So they were actually at this event on 2/5 and said, they were one of the respondents that said 5s across the board. So we're looking to develop a relationship with them. Bianca and I are going to meet with them privately just to tell them about some additional resources that exist in our community and how we can best serve them as a workforce board. But yeah, that was a great connection. I'm really pleased to have them in Glasgow, and we're looking forward to the future with them.
So it was fortuitous that Tate opened up their job portal just a couple days prior to this event, and we were able to get them in because a lot of the folks out of Blue Oval, a lot of them that came were professionals, engineers, and they were professional positions. And that's really what Tate is trying to hire at this moment in time, are the professional positions, as they, because they've got a lot of work to do to kind of get the facility stood up and get operational over the next 12 months. So the timing worked out really well with Tate. And I think, Matt, you told me Tate had told you that they have 15 quality candidates that they were going to consider.
15 candidates for the minute.
Don, can we ask a question real quick? So when you guys do these big meetings or these big job fairs where you have multiple employers from many areas, do you map it out? So it's like, oh, if you're in Allen County, you want to go over there. Like move the businesses so that they're more in their section. I mean, if you're in Edmonson County, you might want to stay over on this side of the building. They have do you stuff like that?
It starts with our recruitment. So when we look at our recruitment, we determine a lot of those people are going to be from Hart County. So we're not finding Simpson County companies to even come at all.
No, I mean your big ones you do.
The big ones that
Where you said
yeah.
10 of them were from South Central. Did you keep those 10 together?
Well, they mostly handled the organization on that.
Okay.
So I will say they were all in one room, but they weren't all in one section.
Okay.
I will say, but if it were for us,
that.
yeah, I love that. I love that because if it were for us, we would try to do that to make it easier for the flow.
Yeah.
And we did that on our event. We kept it small, but also we kept the flow clean so that businesses could know exactly who was where and everything like that.
Yeah.
But for the event that we're talking about on 122,
Yeah.
they handled that.
Okay, so when you do a big one, that might help people.
Yeah, that'd be a great suggestion. Yeah, we would love to do that.
Yeah, to John's point about Tate, I remember seeing when the company first announced, people on even like Barron County social media groups saying, oh my gosh, when's Tate gonna open? So, and the contact info and application window wasn't open then. So this again was, as John said, very fortuitous they could be there. Okay, moving on to strategic goal number 2. This is a little bit more of our like project-based one. So we don't have set goals for this one, but this is about us basically being involved with education industry, statewide stakeholders on what could be local, regional, or even statewide efforts. And so just to kind of peel this back section by section here, what we can do to expand industry recognized training. There's the talk of developing a soft skills kind of curriculum, and we're involved in those discussions. The forklift training that we brought to you last year, that we started in September, and we did a couple of cohorts right after Thanksgiving. We are expanding that to youth. So we are working with both the Warren County and Bowling Green alternative schools. Real quickly, alternative schools, they have different schedules. Students can finish and before May. So their timeline's a little bit different. Their school day operates a little bit differently. So we thought it was a great opportunity to propose, what would be a 4-day forklift training with the virtual reality as this company uses, and they were completely on board. So we've got something planned for that. We'll have a slide for that here in a moment. And then there is the opioid abatement grant funding project that we applied for that grant, and we've got a slide about that too. just other things that we were wanting to see happen, adding that texting capability. Jake just mentioned that for the business service team to have. So they have a tool that we've been using with our youth all of last year, and we started using it with our new Americans about halfway through the year last year. Now we have it for these rapid response events, so we can follow up directly with the job seekers and push out. And Shannon, to your point about, hey, there's this, there's that, at in-person thing, we can do that through texting now by slicing off these phone numbers and putting them into categories to let people know. Yeah. So that was the whole, and it was pretty amazing. So we were sitting here Monday morning, that the line had turned on over the weekend, and they pushed out their first message and responses started coming in like right away. We're like, it's going to happen. And sure enough, and it happened, and then they could have live conversations with people. So it's, we're coming into the 21st century.
Finally.
So we're excited about that, but relocating with our good friend Chad and Goodwill to their expanded opportunity center continues to be a project. It's going to be one we're going to keep you posted on. So it's progressing. The rapid response event, we've already talked about that. The contract for a project called the Kentucky Adult Education SB90. We'll have talk with you about that, and then in-demand career and technical ed pathways, we'll have a little bit of an update on that as well. But we're exploring the possibility of like a new HR training collaboration with possibly the Bowling Green Chamber Area of Commerce, and we had a really good meeting with them a couple of weeks ago. I know Dr. Myers and Chad were in that meeting, and they see a need for that, and just to make that really holistic. So this would be a thing, companies, that if you're in HR, you could come to and be aware of all the local resources and points of contact. But if you have a new staff member come into your HR team, if this could get set up on a regular basis, our idea is people know what's available. And this training would sort of be a way to send them off to something where they can hear all of that. We'd love it to be SHRM accredited, or, whatever the continuing ed kind of credits that live out there in the HR world too, to kind of put some meat on that bone. And then there's just always going to be things that we are involved with, and some of you as well as our board members that are statewide things. And so we have a listing of those, and if anything significant comes of those, we'll always provide an update. So, but yeah, we'll jump into a couple of the detailed ones here for a moment. I'll let John talk about this one.
Yeah, before I talk specifically about the Senate Bill 90 contract, for the last couple of years, we've had a contract with Kentucky Adult Ed for the Putting Kentuckians to Work program. That's the program that Brittany's part of. And the way that contract works is is Kentucky Adult Ed at the state level. They had a need to hire staff like Brittany. They need Brittany's across the state. And so it's very arduous for the state to create new state positions, because by law, the state can only have so many positions. And so the creative workaround was Aaron Pointer, who we incubated his position before he elevated to the state. The creative workaround was Kentucky Adult Ed asked if we could have if they could run a contract through us to hire staff for putting Kentuckians to work. And so that happened 2 years ago. That's a $500,000 a year contract. Most of that money it's just passed through. But what it does is it allows Brittany and four other navigators across the state. They're on our payroll, but they report to Aaron and they report to Michael Eptagraph. And so we don't operationally control them at all, but we are just administering the payroll components of it, mileage reimbursement, and then there's a little bit of administrative funding that we can pull off of that contract for doing the administration. So I say all that to say, this is a separate contract that we've been approached about. And this is Senate Bill, and what it's called is Senate Bill 90 or SB 90 contract. And what Senate Bill 90 is it was passed in 2022. And it is a program where individuals that are in the court system for drug offenses, they, instead of going to incarceration, they can be diverted over to a mental health provider. And if they stay on path with their appointments and with their mental health provider, they can stay out of jail. And so it's a diversion program. And when it was stood up initially, there were a couple of positions, state positions up under adult ed, and that remained in, those state positions remained in place until very recently. right now, those 2 state positions are vacant, and adult ed has looked at it as a good opportunity to, instead of rehiring these folks to be, state employees, let's run this separate contract out and do what we're doing with putting Kentuckians first and just run it through our board. So we are in the final stages of signing that contract. And so really on the contract, there's like 2 components to this. So they really want to get started for this program year. They want an initial contract that'll run from March to June, and it'll be for $64,000, and it'll allow them to hire these 2 new employees. And then starting July 1st, there'll be a second contract that comes in that'll be for $194,000 a year. And that'll be a 1-year contract that starts July 1st and runs through June 30th of 2027. And, similar to the Putting Kentuckians First contract, we'll be able to pull off a 10% administration fee for managing this contract. So Shannon, when you came in and you asked us, we post on behalf of adult ed, we've posted the jobs, we've sent those jobs out, but we're actually not.
I get it.
Yeah, we're not doing the interview process. We're not making the selection on any of that. Aaron and Michael and his team will figure out who they want to hire, and we're just in the background being administrators on the contract. But it's good for us. We're always looking for additional ways, additional funding. And so, between these 2 contracts, it's about a little over $700,000 a year, and we're getting 10%, $70,000. That just helps offset our local expenses and costs. So we're happy to do that work.
How many participants were in this program when it was state managed?
I don't know that. I don't know. What I can tell you is it is only in certain counties. So I think in 2022, when it first came out, I think there were 6 counties across the state that were going to be SB 90 counties. I think it's up to 10. Michael,
I was gonna say,
Mike love the grass on here. Michael, you want to jump in and answer that question? Because I'm just going to fumble.
Yeah, we're actually in 18, moving up to 20 counties across the state with Senate Bill 90.
Okay.
So Warren County came on this last year. So Warren County is fairly new to a program. But the numbers vary because of the vetting process, the way it works, right? So it's not PKF, any individual kind of be referred to it. This is very administrative office of the courts driven. So it's ran through pretrial. Pretrial has to make a recommendation for the individuals to enter Senate Bill 90. So it's a little tighter. There's some other rules involved in it. But I think we've had, I don't want to throw out a number right now. I don't have my numbers in front of me, but it'd be probably close to 400 to 500 per year on a low side, entering the program. So just a couple points of contention is this program is still at the state level. We still have employees that are state employees involved in this program. Becky Wilson, who's part of our team, she is kind of wrangling us, and we have Monique Shaw, right? So those 2 positions are still there. These are 2 additional positions, and these are going to be kind of case navigators, case management. So they're going to be working directly with our local provider network and helping the individuals kind of navigate that, one on the east and one on the west. So we still have the same 2 state positions. These are expanded, right? So these are just going to be case navigators working through. They're very similar to what our PKF navigators do, but they're going to be specifically designed for Senate Bill 90. Does that answer the question?
Clarification. I think I misunderstood. I thought these were going to I thought the 2 state positions had gone away, but thank you for that clarification.
Yeah, no, they're still there and present.
And we have 2 positions open that they're hiring for right now.
Yeah.
So they look like
That is correct.
They'll be our employees. One's going to be on the Western Kentucky territory and counties, and the other one on the Eastern I-65, sort of being the dividing line. And information's available on, I know, our LinkedIn, maybe our Facebook. I'm not sure if we posted it yet, but the application window's open until tomorrow by the end of the day. So if you know anybody, and it's mostly remote. So I think you probably are getting a good amount of applicants, aren't you, Mike?
Yeah, there's quite a few flying through, and good applicants too, right? So, which is a good part of that is we're having some pretty quality applicants apply.
Well, I'll just say, I really value the relationship that we've got with Kentucky Adult Ed and the ability to help out in this way and be a service provider on these contracts.
Michael did want to add that there will never be another Brittany. He just is afraid to say it. I know it was coming, so I'll just add that out there.
Yeah, they definitely broke the mold with that one. I'll let y'all figure that out. But
Excellent. All right. Any other comments, questions on that?
I know Senate Bill 90 is all the way to Paducah. Are you guys gonna come to Paducah?
I'm not.
On the reentry classes with putting Kentuckians first in Canyon and Mayfield?
That's too far.
yeah, hey, I think that's Chad, right? If I can hear the voice, I can't see the talking.
Yeah.
Yes.
Hey, we are working our way that way. It's there's some future plans. We're just not quite there yet. But
It's a great
Senate
time
Bill
to-
90 is in Paducah. You know, we have quite a few Western Kentucky counties, and we have a navigator, Sarah McLaughlin, she kind of does the eastern side of Green River and Western Kentucky. But with our partnerships and growth out there, she is also served all the way out to Fulton, right? Because we have a partnership with their jail, their county jail, where they have a program called the FACE program. So we're doing a lot of work out there anyways, even though we don't have a permanent navigator, we don't turn anybody away.
Kraken just got a new jailer. I think it's a great time to
Yep.
bring me over there and get us in.
How dare you?
Brittany, you can't do self-promotion and they get offended when somebody wants you to go. When somebody wants you to go.
Thank you, Michael.
All right, moving forward. Okay, this will be quick. So there's an effort that at the state level, and it's via the Kentucky Department of Education and the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board to on an annual basis to review career and technical education pathway programs. These are the programs that you find in high schools. And so local workforce boards have a small role in helping review these local pathway programs on an annual basis. And so on the left, you see some process steps. This is what the Kentucky Workforce Innovation Board has asked us to do as a local level. So there's 235 CTE programs are
Only 235.
only 235 CTE programs that are listed as high demand in this current school year. And what we're being asked to do is to engage our local employers, some of our economic development folks, and other sector stakeholders to just take a look at each of these career pathway programs and confirm if we think it remains high demand or not. And so we're a little bit behind on this task, but we're getting ready to get started with it. But we've got to do a review, and we've just got to say yes or no. We think this is high demand for each of these. And then once we complete that at the local level, we'll then submit it back up to the KWIB and Kentucky Department of Education. And then they'll codify what the high demand career pathway programs are for the following school year, for the one that begins this fall. So it's a little bit of a process. The process has changed up a little bit from years past. And so it's a little bit more intentional this year. What we do know is every local area has got to do this task. But if any, let's say in South Central, we find out like 10 of these we don't think they're high demand anymore. But if another workforce area anywhere in the state thinks that pathway is still high demand, then it'll still end up on the high demand list at the state level. So anyway, those are the process steps. We're going to follow those process steps. We will soon be reaching out. We're trying to distill this down into something that's a little more legible and easier for employers to look at. But we're going to get this out here very soon and we'll ask employers, board members that are employers and other stakeholders to take a look at it. And we'll, if we need to, we'll come in beside you and help you look at it. But it's a task that we've got to complete. Technically, they would like it by the end of the month, but we've got some grace and we can get it to them as late as March 15th, which is what we'll be doing.
John, will you share the results of that with the board? That would be
Absolutely.
very interesting.
Absolutely. Yeah. When you look at these 235 CT pathway programs, there's a lot of duplication. And so Brian and I,
Curriculum just different, even though it's duplicated.
Well, there might be a
Overlap.
certificate that you can get and it hits several different career paths.
Yeah.
Yeah.
right.
So we're just trying, they're trying to say, does this still have street cred? Basically,
Yeah.
right? It may have
It's
been
gonna
turned
be
on
used in the
20 years
future
ago,
well.
but yeah. So I mean, I think if for anybody who hasn't been able to see what's being offered at our high school level, I think you would be absolutely blown away. Especially how much it's become pre-college, and how much transfers to college and how much students can take advantage of these days. But I know just because a college offers it and they have their own sounding boards too and advisory councils and things to get this sort of same exact feedback, is this still relevant? This is a once a year exercise for us to ask that same question. But John and I they don't want it to just be the workforce board staff giving them feedback, because we don't know everything that you guys do, and it's more important that you guys give us that feedback. So that's why we're not going to send Paul the whole list of 235, but we peel off the construction ones and maybe ask him for feedback, and same for the other sectors. Yeah.
Happy to do it.
Thank you. Yep. All
So
right.
more to follow, but that's coming. And we thank you in advance for any help you can provide to us.
Yeah. All right, strategic goal 3, educating and preparing job seekers. This one's pretty much relegated to our 16 to 24-year-old outreach that we do with our program called Ready, Set, Hire, and our just general WIOA efforts that we have. So we have some screens to show that. Again, the efforts in red are the things that we're going to ask you to vote on. But just getting started with this, and I know that number 7 is probably even a little bit higher. I tried to update that, Shannon, but Shannon has been everywhere all day long this week already, and the calendar keeps filling up, and the next slide is going to be proof of that. But we've already engaged almost 400 individuals in this age range, and have 85 that have enrolled year to date. We do want to try to track how many we can refer to job and to employers, but that placement outcome is the more important metric, and then we're trying to do about 250 within a 12-month period, and we're halfway there. And so we tend to see a large surge when they graduate of these seniors, of course, that we're focused on primarily, and that will feed that number. But let me just show you how we have decided to punish ourselves in a moment here. But I'm going to let Matt talk about the WIOA numbers and just service that's going on there in activity.
Yep, so we own enrollment numbers right now for the year it sets before, so that's just January. We're kind of slow. We have to slow roll this year. Because our adult and dislocated worker funds are a bit low. So where our focus is going to be is on youth, and specifically youth WEX or work experience and OJTs, so that we can hit those benchmarks. While there's only 4 new enrollments, I believe there are still 86 active participants, and that's split among 3 career advisors. So each of them, we're averaging about 30 participants per career advisor there, where they're maintaining a relationship with them, making sure they have everything they need for a year after the initial service.
Yep. So any questions about that?
These numbers will
active 118.
So these numbers will pick up. We're just in a little bit of a slow period. We are being very conservative and managing money conservatively. And so, but it'll pick back up. The money spigot will turn back on pretty soon.
All right, thank you, Matt. So this is how we have decided to punish ourselves this spring or at least Shannon and Laura, maybe they're so good at what they do that we are sharing the love throughout the region. So this is a snapshot document. John took this to some legislators just days ago in Frankfurt, because we are trying to get this funding renewed and the General Assembly funding package that would start July. And so We have done our own event the last 2 years in Cave City and tried to convene multiple high schools to come. And this year we asked the questions, how can we support the events you're doing? Because we recognize for many companies, I know Scott Murphy is one of them. I just talked to Stacy the other day and wants to be at a lot of these. So for us to add onto that schedule, we know kind of as tug of war, right? An employer says, oh, I want to be at the high school thing, or do I want to go to the workforce board thing? They're supposed to be getting high school students there too. And honestly, our event last year really dropped in the number of employers that did participate, and we did have dozens less students, so it was just kind of harder for us to work out the logistics to do that type of event. We were offering it out there, but again, the schools are very, very active in doing these things, and so we've sort of obligated ourselves at different levels of involvement. At the bottom there, you can see that Bowling Green High, Greenwood, and the rest of the Warren County school system schools get to come to an event called SCK Launch, hosted by the Bowling Green Chamber every year. We are very actively involved in meeting one-on-one with all of those students as best we can, and getting to them ahead of when that event takes place so that they're prepared. We haven't been able to do that as much in some of the other schools. Shannon, in her former role and her current role with us, has been able to, but we are really trying to hone in on how we can help those high schools offer interviews just like the SCK Launch event does. So anybody familiar with that format, it's not just a gym tabling event. It is you go network and talk to the employers, but you have a scheduled interview slot with several of the employers. And that is all geared towards these youth getting hired, especially the seniors when they finish. And so some of the schools are already in the process of doing that, and other ones like Allen County, we introduced this idea and they said, yep, can you help us round up the employers that will add this responsibility to the event and everything. So there's just little brief events listings there for each of those, and differing amounts of seniors that are involved in those. And Shannon, what would you like to add to that?
Well, the numbers on the previous screen have already gone up because I went back to high school yesterday. I was there at 7:45 a.m. and didn't leave until 2 o'clock. So I was in the groove. Laura has been off this week, and she is the keeper of the Google sheet. So I'm sure there are some enrollments that have not yet been recorded. But outside of schools, well, first let me say that, one of our proud moments was when we broke into every county. So we are now in schools in all the 10 counties. So I think our lightest touch is Chad, Simpson County. So yeah, believe it or not. Other than the high schools, we do have other avenues of referral and other educational opportunities. But putting Kentuckians first. We have got a career team makes referrals to us. We co-enroll with some WIOA participants. CDO makes referrals on a regular basis. Youth villages. So we have broken into the foster care segment. And then also outside and community entities like LifeWorks, Scholar House. So we're constantly on the lookout for ways that we can, find those youth. These are, the 16 to 18-year-olds. We're full with the high schools, but those from 18 to 24, we look more to the community and those other entities.
So again, when we go to a high school and say, hey, can we help with your event? And they say, yeah, okay, yeah, we want to do interviewing as part of our event. Can you guys come out and get in front of all of our students and give them one-on-one help? So, for example, Edmonson County, this is a huge highlight, so I'm sure we'll have pictures, or as best they'll let us, or more to update you at the April board meeting. But Edmonson County High School, they let us come out, they let Laura and Shannon come out and do presentations, and we actually recruited from a bound credit union too. So they kind of cycled through 120, all the seniors, 120 seniors at Edmonson County over a 3-hour period or so that one morning in December. They've invited us back next Friday to do the same thing. So all their underclassmen are doing test prep. Seniors don't have to do test prep. And so they otherwise had a dead period, nothing to do. And so, can you get them all resumes on one day for us? And we're like, we'll try. Reminds me of Dr. Myers saying, yeah, we can offer that. Let's figure it out, right? So that's exactly where we've been at with customized training and our customized approach with these schools on how we can help. But we've solicited helpers with our staff and from the Kentucky Career Center hopefully go in there and do this. But it's not our preferred way to get everybody a resume in one day in 3 hours or less, but we're gonna take a stab at that. And again, we have standing invitations at a lot of these schools to come and do that prep. And we've not quite put ourselves out there like this before. So we will, hopefully when this funding renews, we will be able to add another position as well, because the demand is there and these schools are really, really appreciative of the help.
You know, earlier this week, I was able to go out and go up to Frankfurt and update some of our local legislators on the work we're doing, and talked about this slide in particular. But this work is so important with these kids. I mean, as soon as they leave high school, they're gone. They're in the wind. They don't have the same supports. So the degree that we can get in there and assist them and win them over and earn their trust, and get them into our system so that we can stay in touch with them via text messaging. It is paying big dividends. And we don't just serve them once and hope they get a job. I mean, we stay, Shannon, it's almost around the clock that text messages are coming in, and we've had a number of students get hired at a job, and then for whatever reason it didn't work out or they left it, they come back to us and say, can you help me with the next one? And that's what it's all about. That's how we want to be positioned.
Yeah, can I comment on that? And I just want to do a personal thank you to Shannon. So I have a graduating senior. She's a whole lot more open to somebody else's help than mine. So she's, excuse me, she's had a job and it ended because of some seasonal changes. And then, so I reached out to Shannon and I said, hey, what all, do you do? And I mean, among other things, my daughter sent her resume, and I'm like, do you have a resume? And she's like, well, yeah, of course I have a resume. I didn't see it, but she sent it to Shannon. Shannon sent it back. It was beautiful. So this is much more conducive to, because everything, especially for the kids, it seems is an online application. So she's been, as a kid typically might be, much more receptive to a professional's help, than mom who, you don't know what you're doing kind of thing. So it's effective. So we're still job hunting, but Shannon's also been very great to recommend some places that she can send her to. So it's great when you hear it, but then when you experience it personally, it means a lot. So it's appreciated.
Yeah, right.
I have the same thing, and she did it with a high schooler, and she did it for me with a college graduate, a former athlete at UAB, got him his job, and now he's looking for a coaching job. He reached out to me about 2 weeks ago. You think Shannon would help me do a different resume for coaching?
Is it soccer?
Basketball.
We need a soccer coach out now in county for the girls team back. So we know the soccer coaches. We need it back.
He's already reached out to me and was like, man, thank you. I mean, he was a repeat user that is still super satisfied with Shannon's services.
Thank you.
Yeah, I think our huge challenge with the youth that we're realizing is they don't give themselves enough credit. And when they have to compete with the rest of us in the job market and their resumes are not as put together and they don't know how to give themselves credit for things that they've already done in school. So many times Shannon repeatedly says they are not putting that they've got these career pathway certifications and things. And she calls it different things. They're like, well, I have that, but it's just not, and so it's off the resume. And so that point happens. Matt often experienced that as well when he was in a role very similar to Shannon's years ago.
Yeah, that was one of the very valuable things that Shannon just asked her question. Well, have you done this? Have you done that? Have you done? She's like, oh yeah. So, I mean, the resume looks completely different.
Yeah.
Now. It looks like a different.
So much of this work is about that and building, and that turns into confidence.
Yeah.
So, I'm not allowed to lobby for this money again, but anybody in here that has a relationship with the state legislator and you believe in what we're doing, please get in their ear about putting young Kentuckians to work.
All right, tacked on to this part of talking about our support to seniors. Well, yeah, so there's the number that we think that we're going to be in front of here. But another aspect of this is the training, right? So I talked earlier about how we were expanding the forklift training to youth. And so again, we are looking to come to the Bowling Green and Warren County Alternative Schools, the Compass and Lighthouse Academy schools to do up to 6 youth. And we also, I know, have a meeting with Shane Wilson, our board member. It's on the call right now, or on the meeting, and looking at bringing that to Edmonson County High School youth, possibly later in March. And so we think that even for this one in March, there might be an opportunity, since it'll take place in Bowling Green at the Career Center, that we might be able to offer a tour of the Magna facility for those youth as well. So again, we're trying to do a training that leads pretty quickly, hopefully, to employment when they finish. So, and I know the VR part probably doesn't hurt either, that they get to wear some VR helmets for a few days and experiment in that reality. But it is going to culminate with them getting on the real forklift and doing the maneuvers. All right, going on to strategic goal number 4, just removing barriers. This is typically where we're containing this one to how we help with the other focus populations we're set up to serve. So again, our new American military veterans and our justice involved folks. And so again, the numbers in red there are what we're hoping to make as a annual goal. But you can see we're just getting going with this. And we're starting to see some results there at the bottom with known placements, with the referral activity happening and picking up. So again, we hit the reset button on January 1st, and we'll be giving you guys these numbers throughout the year. And yeah, just a little bit more on the opioid abatement grant. This is John.
Yeah, before I talk about this, I will say we have a service member from Fort Campbell that just started a internship with White Squirrel Brewery about a week and a half ago. That's going to be a pretty cool internship. And this guy has plans when he retires, he's going to open a distillery in Oak Grove. And so he was looking for an internship that would help him kind of get familiar with the food and beverage industry. And so White Squirrel was very gracious to take him on. So it's a pretty cool internship. All right, opioid abatement grant. I said that without fumbling it. We applied for a very large grant in December. We won't know the results until April, but the gist of the grant is this: we want to serve individuals in long-term recovery over a 2-year period, 48 people a year. And what we want to do with them is put them through a kind of a 2-week training track. Week 1 would be our Work Ready Boot Camp, which is heavily supported by SCWDB, Aero Safety, and some other folks. And then after week 1, kind of have them go into a secondary track, either a forklift track, a basic manufacturing track, or maybe a welding track. We're still kind of working through what that might look like. But come out, so at the end of 2 weeks, they will have gotten an OSHA 10, first aid, CPR, financial literacy, soft skills, and one of these technical tracks. And then from there, we want to get them placed into employment. What we put into the grant is something a little bit different than we've ever done. We put incentives in place for the job seeker, for the person. If they stay employed for 90 days, there's a series of financial incentives to stay put, to stick it out, to make it to 90 days. We've also put an incentive in place for the employer. We want the employer to stick it out for 90 days. Because these folks that are in long-term recovery, they're by virtue of being in long-term recovery, they're living in a recovery center, in a recovery center. They've got a lot of additional supports, but they've also got some classes they've got to do each day. And there's got to be a little bit of grace given to these folks so that they can fulfill the obligations of being in long-term recovery. So, anyway, I've never seen employer incentives baked into a grant like this. So I think it's pretty cool. Hopefully the Opioid Abatement Commission likes the idea and we'll get this money. So if we do I think we'll know in April, $680K over 2 years if we get it. So it'd be a very substantial win if we get it. So anyway, I just want to put this on your radar. This is something we've applied for, and fingers crossed we'll get it. If we do get it, we'll begin. It would begin July 1st. So,
yeah, I'll add real quick. Another focus of it is the incentives are there for the employer so that we can try to open up more direct hire opportunities. Many times these folks have to go to staffing agencies and temp. Purgatory, I often call it. Nothing against the staffing agencies, but that's just sort of the nature of how many employers have dealt with this population many times, and we'd like to see them get more direct hire opportunities.
We got quite a few letters of support from employers, from recovery centers, from other entities in the community that serve folks in recovery. So Yeah.
All right, we'll go to the last strategic goal, number 5, and this is John again.
Okay, yeah, strategic goal number 5 is, which is really, you know, what we call our kind of our accountability goal. And you can see, for each of these, key performance indicators, there's a sub goal for each of these. And so, we've already started making headway on some of these. So the first one is improve financial sustainability. And the goal is, you know, the goal I set for myself is go out and find another $250,000 from somewhere to add to the pot. So we're already making some headway on that. I've talked about the SB90 contract that should begin in March. We haven't signed it yet, but it's close. We did the Bluegrass Workforce Development Board out of Lexington gave us transferred $75,000 of youth funding to us in early January. Because they were going to have trouble spending it, and now it's my trouble to spend, but we're going to figure that out. And then I did just enter into a very small contract with Northern Kentucky Workforce Board. They reached out. They've had some staffing issues, and they need somebody to do what's called data validation, and that's a quarterly requirement. And it's about 30 hours worth of work. They've heard how good Jessica Calvert is on our team at doing data validation, so they asked if she could do that. And we've signed a contract for $3,000 for her to provide about 30 hours worth of work to that end. Again, the next two are compliance, you know, external audit, state audit. The state audit is going on right now. It has not quite closed out yet. So hopefully any day now it'll close out. That one has been a little more thorough than in years past. But we feel pretty good about it. I mean, I think everything they've asked for a lot. We've been able to provide everything they've asked for. So hopefully that'll close soon and we'll be able to report those results to you. The fourth, the WIOA direct service RFP, we've talked about that. We've talked about the partnership and interlocal agreement. And then one other thing that we are doing, and this is really internal on that last one, is we've got about 30 WIOA policies, and most of these were established in the 2017-18 timeframe. And several of them have been updated over the years, but many of them haven't been touched since 2008, 17 or 18. And we've started to realize, like, ooh, some of these are pretty outdated. We've got some work to do. So internally, we want to review at least 10 of these, which will be about a third this year, and get them updated. So that is going to involve internally, we're gonna select 10, mark them up, and then we're gonna have to convene. We're gonna have to convene a committee and have a committee of board members, or governance committee, look at the recommended changes, and if the governance committee goes, yep, we agree with these changes, then those changes will be brought to the greater board of directors for final approval. So that's something we look to do. We've already gotten started. So this quarter and the following quarter, it'll probably take us between now and June to do this. We'll keep you updated on it. All right, what's next?
All right. Ready for another voting action?
Okay, yes. So as promised, we want to come back to you at this point in time and say, okay, we've talked about each of these strategic goals. All the goals in red are what we propose to do and hold ourselves accountable to. And so my ask would be for the board to approve these key performance indicators for 2026.
John, I'll make the motion to adopt and approve the 2026 key performance indicators as presented for each South Central Workforce Development Board strategic goal.
Second.
Any questions? All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Thanks.
All right, this is going to be something new. All right,
Crowd
Brian.
participation. Take out your phones. We just need a vote. So we're going to let you be a participant in our new texting platform. If you're a board member, if you're a guest, you don't have to worry about this, but we're trying to make sure we're going to have quorum on either the 9th or the 16th. So all we need is for you to scan the code with your phone. If you can, look at the Zoom meeting if you haven't been able to, and look at the slide. And just text us your first and last name so we know who you are. We are not in the habit of memorizing phone numbers these days anymore, but just let us know, drop your name and then drop a 9 or 16. That's the dates we're looking at in April. So if you know you already have spring break plans, or you know you need to make those, and you're probably going to be out, then you may want to say the 16th. But we will be reaching out to, we only have I think 6 board members that are not participating right now in this meeting. So we'll reach out to them too. And we'll solicit all that feedback, and we'll report back out to all of you which date will hold. But typically when we've come to you in a survey, it's happened this way the last 3 fall or spring breaks. So we assume that we'll probably have to bump it to the 16th, but we want to know for sure. So please chime in. With that, that's going to actually land this phone number that you don't see the numbers to, but your phone will, is our new rapid response texting line that Jake and Bianca are using. So we may be pushing out text message reminders to you as well for board meetings or other things. Definitely not like number sheets and things that'll show up tiny. But if we need to reach you from time to time or send reminders out, we may be doing that. Message and data rates may apply.
Yes. All right. Everybody had a chance to do that?
Thank you for your help on that. That's important. We have a good showing like we have had today. So now I'll open the floor to any discussion, public comment from board members, guests, visitors. If not, I think we're gonna hit the record books here on shortest board meeting. All right.
Well, if there's nothing else, I will go ahead and adjourn our meeting. Y'all have a great day.
All right. Thanks, everybody.
Abraham Lincoln's birthday. Thank you. Well, Abe. Dog.
We lost it. God, I'm sorry, I'm happy to look.
Girl.
I do the same thing.